Pictures up.
Pictures up.
Pictures up. Let's roll sound. Rolling.
Rolling.
Sound speed.
Hi there, and welcome into Meet Me in the Movies Open Dialogue. This is Thomas Manning, and I had a chance to sit down with writer and director Susanna Fogel to talk about her new dark comedy film, Winner. This is based on the real-life story of reality Winner, the famous whistleblower who leaked an intelligence report on Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Kerry Howley wrote the screenplay for this film, and it's based on her New York Magazine article in 2017. Emilia Jones plays reality winner in this film. Other familiar faces include Kathryn Newton, Connie Britton, Zach Galifianakis, as well as Danny Ramirez. The film premiered at Sundance 2024 and is now getting a theatrical release. Thanks to Susanna for a very insightful discussion here. We also talked a little bit about the cinematography from Steve Yedlin, who's one of my favorite DPs. So I'm glad we got to spend a little bit of time there. And thank you all so much for watching and listening as we speak with Susanna Fogel about Winter. And I hope you all enjoy.
Dad, get in here!
What is going on?
To some folks, trying to understand both sides of a conflict is un-American. Trust me, y'all, I'm as American as it gets.
Nice.
My name is Reality Winner. Yeah, it's my real name.
The truth is, whoever the bad guys are, okay, once you spend some time with them, learn their ways.
Gab's Dan, was a bonus. I want to help people displaced by war.
You know what stops wars? The U.S. Air Force.
Sorry, dude. I'm going to A&M. So I joined the Air Force.
Really?
It's a joke, right?
Boot camp starts the day after I graduate. And then I was off to Afghanistan. Yeah, I wish. They said I had to start here first, doing surveillance on the Taliban. The next 2 years were all drone strike in Bamiyan, road trip with Andre, bench 130, killed someone's grandfather, dude moved into my place, killed 3 ISIS dudes, $500 to the Red Cross, saw Pitch Perfect 2, better than Pitch Perfect 1. Wonder if they'll make it a trilogy.
Your job is to monitor running aerospace. Everything else you need to know.
What if I need to know who got eliminated on The Bachelorette?
Not on office computers. But you can come ask me. I keep up.
I mean, you'd at least want to look, right? Be honest. The government 100% knew the Russians hacked their voting systems days before the election.
We received a report that you mishandled some classified information.
Crazy.
Were you aware that your daughter hates America? My daughter isn't a terrorist.
If no one ever takes a risk to try and change things, then nothing will ever change.
Hi.
Hey, Susanna, how are you doing?
I'm good. And how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time today to talk about Winter. Congrats on the film, and I'll get right into it. So you're working with Kerry Howley here, who wrote the screenplay, and of course she has her article in the New Yorker from 2017. So I'm curious for you, did you read that article when it was initially published, or was it one that you found later on?
I did not read it when it was published. I knew who Reality Winner was just because of the headline about her. So I was guilty of the same thing that most people are guilty of when they read a headline and then scroll to the next news item. But I didn't read Carrie's article when it came out. I was introduced to it years later, not that long after actually, when they were trying to start putting a movie together, which was still years ago, but it's an independent film, so it takes forever. But I read her article and I thought, why don't more people know the story? And then I kind of realized the reason is because of complications with her plea bargain and all of that, and not being able to tell her story really. But I got really excited to help tell the story about a really relatable, funny, regular girl who was put in this situation of making a moral choice.
Absolutely. And of course, we have Emilia Jones playing reality for the majority of the film. But in a few pivotal scenes at the beginning, you have Annalise Pullman playing a younger version of her. And I thought she really nailed those scenes. And those were really crucial to building that foundation for her character. And, you get a sense of her personality right from the jump. So can you
Yeah.
speak? Can you speak a bit about the importance of finding exactly the right young actor for those scenes and why Annalise fit the bill?
Yeah. Oh, and Elise and her family will be so thrilled that we're taking the time to talk about this. We were looking for somebody who had like a really outsized level of maturity for what someone at age 9 would have. And so a lot of child actors, they either feel like they're young actors or they have a cuteness. Like you don't completely believe the dialogue where they're talking about, the complications of 9/11 and racism and communication. And she's asking questions that are kind of simple but profound. And so a lot of the young actresses that came in that were 9 just sort of felt like kids. They didn't feel really like they would be sort of the adult in the kid's body that reality was. That Annalise is a little bit older than that. And maybe that's part of the maturity. But I got the sense that since she was born, she always felt like a little sophisticated adult who just completely sold the idea that she was really, ahead of her age in terms of what she was thinking about and the level of nuance that she was bringing to the conversations around the news at the time.
And with Amelia, you've worked with her before on Cat Person, which I have to say I'm a fan of that movie as well. I called that one last year, and that one stuck with me for a while. But there are a few things with Amelia's
Thank you.
performance here. Yeah, a few things with Amelia's performance here I want to talk about. First, I'll ask about working with her on finding the subtle Texas accent and dialect. I'm from North Carolina. You probably tell I have a bit of an accent myself, and I have a lot of family in tech a lot of family in Texas, and I know how they talk. And I think sometimes when we see those accents on film, it can sound over exaggerated, but I didn't think that was the case at all with Amelia. I thought it just sounded pretty accurate. So what were some of the important conversations that you all had in developing that manner of speaking for Amelia, and keeping that true to how reality actually sounds in real life?
I mean, I have gotten to know reality in the few years between her getting out of prison and then through being on house arrest and then just being free and being back in Kingsville. So I had visited her several times. We put them on the phone with each other. I had like voice memos from her, and then at a certain point, Amelia went down and actually hung out with her for a couple of days. So she was able to be in the home and sort of live in her world. And Amelia is a really hardworking, like studious actress who really wants to disappear into a character. So she's always taking notes, either mental notes or literal notes in her color-coded binder that she brings to every shoot. So with that, she worked with a dialect coach. Her sort of neutral American accent that she's learned because she's British was closer to the template than the sort of like extreme Southern accents that she wasn't trying to do an impression of a Southern accent that she'd seen on TV. So maybe that helped it too. That she built it from the American accent she'd used in Cat Person and Coda. So it was just adding these little moments and these little idiosyncrasies, and sort of it's as much about the words, like the y'all and all that sort of came out of it, as it is about the pronunciation. So I feel like she didn't do an exaggerated version, which I think was helpful. And Connie Britton also, I have to like give her a nod too, just because having done Friday Night Lights, obviously that was more sort of drawly, but she never felt like she was a caricature, and she also brought a level of accent that felt accurate and not too pushed. So I think she also, like being Amelia's scene partner, helped Amelia too.
Most definitely. And I think that just as much as anything else, this movie is a family drama, and you really spend time building those family dynamics and each individual relationship that reality has within her family. Whether it's with her sister Brittany or her mother or her father. Um, so for you as a filmmaker, what were some of the most significant decisions in crafting those relationships and really conveying that family aspect of who reality is as a person?
Honestly, it was spending time with the family. Kerry had done some of that too, and Billy Winner, Reality's mother, is so involved in Reality's life. He, was sort of ever present. So Billy was very accessible to us, and part of what was interesting was talking to the different people in the family about their different accounts of the same events, which is a very like relatable family dynamic where each person has a slightly different story about the same story. So getting to talk to everybody was interesting, not just to sort of figure out what happened, plot-wise, but also like the different reactions everyone had to it, and also their different descriptions of their relationships with each other, which are interesting. Billy's definition of, the arc of her relationship with her daughter is different from reality's, for instance, and all of that was sort of interesting too, and helped inform the drama and the ups and downs. But yeah, I mean, in general, like, they are a loving family who were very regular in certain ways and then very unique in others, in that they're all very motivated by a sense of justice and an obligation to other people. So like, Billy's a social worker who helped get kids, out of abusive homes and into foster care. And she was really advocating for people less fortunate than her. And Reality's dad was an academic who studied other cultures like the Mayans, and was constantly encouraging his kids to explore the world and to have empathy and understanding for different cultures. So they were always encouraging their kids to volunteer, to do all sorts of things that were sort of just giving back constantly. So I think that was a really strong backbone of that family ethos. And it's not at the center of every family, but in that family, it was really a really strong sense of advocacy and altruism that I think really propelled Reality through her choices.
Right. And we have Emilia basically narrating the film as well, having that voiceover. So I'm curious what went into that choice. Was that there from the very beginning? Did you and Kerry always know that you wanted to use that approach to kind of push this narrative along?
The voiceover, no, that was something that was added late in the game, actually. The reason that we added that, it's always a tricky thing with voiceover because it can be such a crutch that people use to tell a story, and it can be such a thing that it doesn't help the storytelling if it's sort of telling you the same thing that you could learn another way. But in the case of Reality's story, she's such a solitary person in some ways. For all that she gives back to her community, she's a person who is really hard to get close to on a certain level. She's very strong-willed, and she marches to the beat of her own drum, and she doesn't want to be tied down in all of these ways. So it was hard to invent a best friend character for her, or without having a person that was really true to her life, that was with her throughout everything to talk to. She's often alone. So part of the benefit of the voiceover was being able to get inside her head a little bit, so she's not having to say what she's feeling to someone else. But the other reason for it was really that we wanted to convey her struggle with OCD, and really the fact that she would obsess about these moral questions on a level that was quite difficult for her to withstand. She couldn't let it go. If she saw something that felt wrong to her, she wouldn't be able to let herself off the hook if she looked the other way. And so that was in the shadows of her decision to leak that document. It's just that she kept thinking, why is this happening? And if I don't do something about it and there are consequences in some way politically for this lie, I will know that I could have done something. And I think she wasn't able to shut that off. So we wanted to present that layer of storytelling where we would get to put the audience inside her experience of feeling like there's a very loud source of noise inside your brain that you can't turn off. And what does that lead you to do? And sometimes it leads her to do all sorts of really magnanimous things, and other times it leads her to make choices that get her into a lot of trouble.
Right. And I know we're running a little bit low on time, but I want to make sure to spend a little bit of time talking about the cinematography from Steve Yetlin. I'm a huge fan of his work, especially his work with Ryan Johnson. And the work you did together here, I really appreciated, specifically in finding ways to take something that could be very monotonous, reality sitting behind a computer screen, but finding ways to make that visually compelling, and kind of using that to signify the evolution of her character in that environment. You had some of the extreme close-ups on her eyes. Then you had the dolly zoom that comes at a very important scene in the film. So, what are some things about Steve as a DP that really stood out to you from your perspective as a director in your collaboration with him?
I mean, I've been a fan of Steve's work for years and years. I've known him for many years. And I've watched him go from someone who had made a couple of really impressive but smaller movies into someone who's literally shooting the biggest franchises, on the planet and other planets and galaxies. So Steve has always just been somebody who I feel like has an unlimited amount of scope, but also is really, really driven by what he personally finds compelling. And so, when I asked him if he would shoot this tiny movie, comparatively tiny movie, I was hoping he would say yes, because I thought it would elevate the movie so much to have his brain on it. But I was not expecting him to say yes. And then I realized I really underestimated him, because of all the people I've worked with, like, he does exactly what he wants when he wants, when it comes to picking projects. Like, he is motivated entirely by his sense of what he wants to spend time doing. And so I wanted somebody who would make the movie feel really energetic and really exuberant in its way, because I think the version of this story that feels lectury and over dramatic is not a version that people are going to keep watching. And I want young people to be sucked in and keep watching it as though it's just a fun coming of age story that has a lot of pace and color and movement, because that's really how reality moves through the world. Like, she's a CrossFit coach, she wears fluorescent clothes. I wanted the movie to have like a lot of that energy to it. So Steve was the perfect person, just because that's something that really defines his work. There's such a specificity and authorship to every choice he makes. And you can dial in a very specific feeling that you want to conjure in an audience with Steve's like unlimited technical skills. So he was the perfect person, I thought. The minute he said yes, I was like, oh, this movie's going to look incredible and no one will believe we made it for the budget we made it for. And that will be a bad thing, because then people will expect us to always work with low budgets because we can do it, but good thing for the movie.
Well, Susanna, it's been a privilege chatting with you today, and thank you for your time. Congrats on the film, and hopefully we share more conversations in the future.
I would love it. I look forward to crossing paths with you again on the next thing. Thanks so much.
Thank you. You have a great afternoon.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, pictures up.
Pictures up.
Pictures up. Let's roll sound. Rolling.
Rolling.
Sound speed.
Camera speed. Awesome. Take two.
And action.